fine. It's just a
Okay.
voiceover.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Today I'm very grateful to.
Sure.
Yeah. Good evening again. Today I'm very grateful to introduce Dr. Sekar, who has a PhD from the University of British Columbia. He joined the University of Findlay School of Pharmacy in July 2007 as Associate Professor in Pharmaceutical Sciences. Dr. Sekar has several years of pharmacy practice experience at the University of Cincinnati Hospital, where he provided pharmacy services in both centralized and decentralized areas of practice. He also has 20 years of research experience in molecular pharmacology, with specialization in the area of phosphoinositide signaling. He is most proud for the following research publication, where he demonstrated that cycloinositol phosphohydroxylase is not annexin 3. He will love to collaborate with anyone who is interested in identifying the significance of this protein. As Dr. Sekar firmly believes that understanding and adapting to this rapidly changing world is critical for both personal and professional success, he has been more recently involved in developing study abroad opportunities for students at University of Findlay and has carried out trips to India and UAE as well. Dr. Sekar recently received ML Khurana Memorial Award from Indian Pharmaceutical Association in the year 2018 and BM Mithal Memorial Awards BITS Pilani in 2019. Wishing you many more great success like this, sir, and thank you for being an inspiration to many. The room is waiting to hear from you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wish have a good evening to all of you. So if anybody is here to listen to the talk, thinking that I'm going to tell you what area of research you should do, then no, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm going to talk here exactly about research basics. The reason I chose the topic is I often get a call once a month approximately, and somebody says, I have done a Form D, I have done a B Form or M Form, and can you tell me which area of research I should do? It just occurred to me that most people really don't even know what research is. Okay, because you should not be asking the question to a stranger or even your family member, what area of research I should do. So I'm going to talk about what is research, what are the various types of research basically you can do. And I've got personal experience with two people who have done the research and tell you why one type of research is going to be more successful than the other. Okay. And the basic characteristics you need to have if you're really going to pursue research. And please remember, in order to do research, you don't need a PhD. Okay? PhD is not a requirement to do research. PhD is just basically training for you to do a better research. But you can do research even after B Pharm, you can do research after M Pharm, you can do research in any field. So most people, I believe, to some extent, I'm including in that when I was young, somehow think that PhD is just like another course, like B Pharm or M Pharm, where you go and take some exams and do well. You don't become a researcher just by passing more courses. Okay, so this is the talk about that, and I hopefully some of you will find it useful. So let me start. What is research? That's what I'm going to cover. Understand the two major types of research. They are very different. While I was reasonably good in one type of research, I probably have no idea of the other type of research, how to do it. And I recognize my limitation. That's why you do the first type of research, because that suits my personality more. Recognize steps and mindset required for research. And the last 2 points are basically a solution. If you are planning to do research, how can I help you do that better? And major attributes for a successful researcher. Okay, what is research? Research will be a solve problems that have known solution by anyone in the world. That's very critical. Okay. Research is not learning from books, papers, news, reports, professors, or anything that can be learned by definition is not research. I always get this, sir, I have published a review in this journal and now I'm interested in research. That research is not just review. Review is the background you require before you start the research. So once you have identified a subject material in which you want to do the research, then you review it thoroughly so that you know what all have been done. So the information you are generating should be new and no one else has done that work. That is research. So why we do research? Understand the world, solve new problems, improve the existing solution. This is the three reasons you will be doing research. Pen color again, right? That's fine. So this is the three reasons you do research for. You understand the world, you solve new problems, and improve existing solution. So from this slide, I tell you, most of the time when you just go to the news or go to the journal or go to find out the material, we are preparing to do a research. And sometimes it may be just simply buying airline ticket, okay, or which place to go and sightsee. That's you have to find something completely new and which others can build upon, and that is research. And research can be multifold. You can do a research by surveys, like social sciences research. If you want to figure out if somebody like type of research my daughter does, who are the people who are going to believe in environmental sciences, or who are the people who are going to buy an electric car, or what is the general opinion in the American electorate about global warming. Okay, so those type of research are social sciences research. You can do research in data mining. That's what the people in Facebook and the YouTube and the who looks at the data. So they collect all the information and then they do the research and they say, okay, if I'm going to bring this advertisement to this particular person, he's going to bring the product, buy the product. You can do the type of research I did, biochemical research. Okay, it is basically in cell culture, it's mostly in a very controlled environment. You find something very basic, something which is new, which nobody else know about. And we'll tell you what the positive and the hard takes of that type of research. You can be looking cell under a microscope for whole of thing, biological sciences, or looking at the leaves, botanical sciences, geology, the animal sciences. You can do research. So based on the two slides, if you want to do research, first thing is you have to figure out what area you would like to do research on. That's the most important thing. So there are two types of research, okay, broadly speaking. One is basic research and one is applied research. And as I can tell you, these two are completely different. In the basic research, you are doing a scientific discovery, discovering the double helix in the DNA, describing ribosomes, RNA, protein. All those are basically new. When you are doing the scientific discovery, like the one I did on cyclic inositol phosphohydrolase, I know it's new, but I don't know what its application is. Applied research is taking that already known basic science research and applying it for technological application and innovation. Motivation. Folks, I got away with it. I don't think I'm the most intellectually curious guy. In 1970s, I was a good student. I can do hard work. I learned the subject well. I mastered it. Even though I lacked too much in intellectual curiosity, but because of deficient in that, but I still, because of other characteristics which I possessed, I became reasonably decent researcher. Applied research is solving problem. So again, remember, these two are different. Intellectual curiosity gives rise to basic research. Applied research, are you a person who is going to solve a problem? You can see how do you convert the heat energy to light energy, solar problems, all those. So those will be applied research. Key questions for basic research is it true? For the applied research, you're asking, does it work? It doesn't matter what is the underlying principle. Objective here is to understand. Applied research is to come up with solutions. So now, almost every one of you who wants to do research has to ask yourself, am I doing the basic type of research or am I doing the applied research? You are more likely to do basic research if you are intellectually curious. You are more likely to do applied research if you are a person who wants to always solve problems. So when I taught in the beginning of the class that I am more in the basic research type than the applied research type. Okay, so I know about myself. So you need to figure it out. And again, please, once you have an undergraduate degree, once you have 4 to 6 years of college, you really don't need any more degree to go and do research. You just need to have one of these two characteristics: intellectual curiosity to solve a problem or operating to solve a problem directly. Okay, that's all. Okay, so this is me in 1970. I was 15 and a half when I joined the College of Pharmacy. Now, why did I join pharmacy? I got admission to science and engineering and then, but I liked chemistry more than maths. So I decided to go with the pharmacy. And this is my graduating class. As you can see, the world has changed. In that graduating class, we have one Shailaja Reddy in our class for 29 kids. And there's only one girl. Okay. And now you can see, I'm sure most people in the listener who are listening for PharmD here are females. So the world in the 1970 is not the same as 2020. So you cannot use the same tools which I got away with it in 1970s to be successful here. You have to be much smarter than me, more motivated than me, more aggressive than me. Okay, so I was a good student. I was in the top 3 in the class all the time. And I finished in 1974. So what made me do what I'm doing? Why did I become a PhD guy? Okay, this is what. I wanted to be a guy like this. I wanted to teach. I wanted to talk. Okay, I wanted to teach. I was good at that. I liked the fact that some of my teachers motivated me, whereas some made me sleep. So I know my destination was to become a professor. Okay, that was my destination. And I know for a person to be a professor, he needs to get his PhD. Okay, even in 1970s, that was a requirement. So I needed to do a PhD. So what did I do? And I loved traveling. I loved traveling, seeing the world. But naturally, in 1970s, my father could not afford even going me anywhere. I didn't travel much of India other than I grew up in Pilani. I lived in Pilani. Okay. So to me, because I was a reasonably good student, I got good grades. I wanted to be a professor, and professor needs to do a PhD. I applied for other countries around the world. I mean, mainly America and Canada. Okay. So remember, looking back on the slide before, I'm doing PhD for a reason which is not exactly to do research. It's basically a goal to attain my professional goal. And we'll compare again later. So I got into University of British Columbia. Okay. Because I was a good student, they gave me a full tuition waiver and gave me enough scholarship to live a decent life so I can have a room above my head and food on my table. I didn't know many things at that point. So I arrived in University of British Columbia and I met to, during my master's, I have done a small project on peptide synthesis in BITS Pilani. Okay. So I arrived and I met to all the faculty. This is with whom I ended up finally doing my PhD. This is Dr. Basil Rufagalis. Actually, this is a more recent picture. He was very young at that point, 35 years old. He was a new assistant professor at the University of British Columbia. He saw my work I've done on peptide synthesis, and talking to all the faculty, we decided to work on his project. So remember, there's a difference. I am choosing the project. The project is not the project is choosing me rather than me choosing the project. Okay, and this ribbon structure here is they called enzyme acetylcholinesterase. So that's what his lab was working on, enzyme acetylcholinesterase. So I decided, okay, I'm going to work on acetylcholinesterase. After spending, naturally, there was quite a bit of coursework in the first year. But after first year and a second year of whole lab, I then realized that the whole foundation of the hypothesis for what he was investigating was not right. Results were not going the way it was. So finally, after 2 years of work, I was able to publish my second paper or first paper from University of British Columbia called Differential Behavior of Eel and Erythrocyte Acetylcholinesterase and N-methylacridine Affinity Columns, Importance of Ligand Affinity and Concentration. Okay, after 2 years, did it excite me? No. Right? It was almost like a dead end project at this point. Yes, I got a publication. I was happy to see my name on the print for the first time. It was a good training experience. But that is the time I realized what a real meaning of research. He told, well, if you can't want to pursue this project, you go ahead and choose your own project. Okay. So the next 6 months, I go to the library. Now that I'm already in acetylcholinesterase, I look at all the receptors, all the proteins, things surrounding it, because that is where I knew the maximum amount of material. Okay. So I started looking at that way, and I come up with this small compound called Inositol. Okay. And most of this inositol is bound to the lipid called phosphatidyl inositol. Okay. And in Bob Michel in 1975 published a wonderful paper called Inositol Phospholipids and Cell Receptor Function. So by the time I have enough pharmacology knowledge to know that most neurotransmitters don't cross the membrane. They bind to receptors on the cell surface, and somehow the information goes into the cell. And according to Bob Michel, one of the molecules could be phosphatidyl inositol. Okay. So I worked on it, and literally like somebody cast in a movie. Once you start doing PhD, once you become expertise in a certain molecule, it's very difficult to get out of that field. And today, so I spent literally all my papers except the first 1 or 2 years, from 1978 onwards to 1999, when I stopped basically my research, and even few papers after that. All of them do with inositol lipid. And today, the inositol lipid signaling looks like this. And basically, my work was very near to the breakdown of PIP2. That's all. I spent all my life looking at one particular biochemical aspect. And after doing the PhD, I figured out, naturally, nobody told me before, that if I want to get my professor's job, I need to do a postdoc. And there I worked again with inositol lipids, because that's what you have done for this many years. And I found some of the most interesting things in my life, at least the new information about cyclic inositol phosphates, cyclic inositol phosphohydrolase, and all that. But again, this was basic research. We don't know what it means, but we did it. And at least I was the only guy in the world who has done that. Okay, I was happy about it. Got some good publications out of it. But this is how the whole inositol lipid signaling looks like. Literally, like me, Dr. Sekar, there are so many doctors who are involved in identifying each one of these steps. Okay. So unless something like that excites you, motivates you, and you think you can make your living by trying to do these type of things, it's a very, very long life. And it is at times very depressing. So I published over 3 papers on an average. About 40 papers came out in the 15 years I have been there. Okay. So now one of the most important well-cited paper. The citation means that somebody else is building on your paper. So the one which was worked with University of Alabama at Birmingham with Dr. Alan Wells, who is a professor in Pittsburgh, is a pathologist, epidermal growth factor supermediated cell motility phospholipase C activity is required, but mitogen activated protein kinase. Why this is the most cited paper of mine? Because cancer is a disease which is affecting many people. There's a lot of interest in cancer, a lot of drugs are being developed in cancer. So what I did, have some use to somebody. Okay. And the next slide tells you what is the characteristics of basic research. If things panned out okay for me, joy of solving a puzzle, I did find some things new, which I'm proud. I still love to see sometime my name coming up or somebody else benefiting from what I did, and I did not know what it means. They're figuring it out. That's the happy thing. Knowing a secret which no one else knows. So even today in cyclic industrial phosphohydrolase, if probably there are 7 billion people in the world, probably no one else besides me can talk. Literally, no one will talk with the same amount of passion what I talk about this molecule. Okay, so that is the positive thing of it. And what this journey requires is a lot of patience. Remember, I did not come to University of British Columbia with a clear vision of what type of research I want to do and where I want to go. We stumbled upon a project. If you do like this, you're going to be stumbling many, many times. And most of the times, the result does not appear the way you want to be. I have no idea how many New Year's Eve I've worked in the lab only to start the New Year day with a very down news that the experiment which I was hoping to work and will start my new year, really great new year, did not pan out the way it's supposed to be. It requires uninterrupted focus. Okay. You need to sacrifice your time. Remember, life is value, your ability to enjoy or pleasure seeking things which you want to do. All of that have to be committed if you want to have a reasonable success in basic research. Now, think of it. If instead of coming into Dr. Basil Rufagalis's lab with an open mind of, no, I can do anything I want or I can do anything. If I was looking at the wrinkles in my grandmother's face and she doesn't look as beautiful as she was 10 years back, and see how many people in the world are trying to get rid of their wrinkles. Okay. So if I was have an idea that I'm going to solve the problem of wrinkles. Remember, I work with acetylcholinesterase, okay, which degrades the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. After 2 years, I have nothing to show for other than a paper. After 20 years, I have nothing to show for other than 40 papers. Okay. But if I would have been curious about the wrinkles, I would have understood and done a real research about how the wrinkles are made. Then I may have probably identified Botox, which prevents the neurotransmitter release of acetylcholine and thereby removing the wrinkle. Okay. So here it is. The topic you go, how you approach it. Are you trying to solve a problem? Are you intellectually curious? All that are required if you want to be successful in research. Okay. So this just tells you the two slide. Now, what is the interest or joy of doing applied research? If things pan out, joy of producing useful product. Remember, in basic science, I'm providing a useful knowledge which somebody else, maybe a person who is trying to convert it into a product, finds it useful. Good return on the time and financial investment. Okay, most likely if you're working, the short time is shorter, and you can make a good return on the time invested. And what this journey requires is creativity and entrepreneurship. You should be able to have a lot of business skills, a lot of people skills, because if you don't, you cannot bring the product to the market. Ability to commit both time and money, and you should be able to take risk. Okay, I don't like too much risk. I don't have too much entrepreneurship. So between the two research, I chose the research which is more amicable to my personality and my training. Now, in this example, now that we are all having COVID and everything in the world surrounds around COVID, I just give these examples. So what would be considered as a basic research? Finding a gene sequence. How does this virus spreads? What is the mechanism of entry of the COVID into the cell? What is the source of transmission? It came from bat, it came from another animal, where it comes from. And how the knowledge on this will prevent the future viruses capable of causing the damage. So today, any one of you, most of you probably have enough information to start working on any of these projects, okay, if you have the motivation. You all have the knowledge. So you don't need a PhD to do it. The only thing PhD will do is if you know that I want to do the spreading mechanism, then you go to a lab which has already done a lot of the newest technology, a lot of new equipment, start studying it. If you want to enter the mechanism of entry and replication, you go to a different lab. Okay, who are studying other viral entry mechanism or a bacterial mechanism. So that's what PhD does. PhD means that you can go to a lab, go to a place where people have shared interest, where they already have the foundation. So it's easy for you to learn a technique. Okay. But if you just go to, I want to PhD in any lab, well, I tell you what, yes, somebody will hire you, but you are never going to be a real PhD. You'll probably a technician who knows your skill set. What does an applied research do? Okay, they will currently use the drugs that may prevent coding. Okay, again, if some of you learn it, you can use it. How to develop a vaccine for the sequences which you have developed. Effective services, how to distribute an immunization. There are the pharmacy challenges, the public health challenges. So there are research involved there. Effective design, vaccine effectiveness. Am I going to get vaccine every year? Am I going to get vaccine every once in 10 years? We don't know, right? So you can do research in any one of those areas. If one is example. So I'm just giving an example of, again, there are many topics you can work on. These are just few examples of what is a basic research in COVID, what is an applied research in COVID. So now that I'm a little smart and I do publish paper and think of it, so I collaborated with somebody from Peru who speaks Spanish, and then we published this paper called the Peru Approach Against COVID-19 Infodemic Insights and Strategies. And remember, it has been only published for less than a year, and we already have 22 citations. Okay, so as a professor, scientific thing, these are the things they look for me to see whether I should get promoted or how well I'm doing in the field I've chosen. Now, that is my journey. I give you thing and told you what are the handicaps I had or what are the things I lacked. Now, this is another person's story of sharing another person's story of how things work out for the gentleman. Okay. So this is the gentleman whom I know well because he's my son. Okay. He ended up growing, he was born in Madison, Wisconsin. He grew up all his life in America. And naturally, the education system in America is different. And he has certain privileges. He listened to national public radio every day I go. So he traveled to India multiple times before he was three times before he was 10 years old. So he had a much global vision, unlike his dad, who first saw the plane at the age of 24. So when he was growing up, he went to the Birmingham Zoo every day. There are two reasons. One is that's the type of entertainment I could afford with my PhD. Okay. So he went to Birmingham Zoo, where you buy a season pass and you can go and visit every time. And he was very interested in animals. Is it monkeys, elephants, zebras? He was very interested. He had a passion for animals. He watched National Geographic Channel repeatedly. So very early in his life, he showed that he loved animals. And he visited literally in Washington Zoo. For 2 weeks I was in Washington, visited every day to the zoo. And thereby his life liking to the animal ended up he getting a dog when he was in the 8th grade. And that's actually very interesting because nobody else in our family had a dog before. So he got a perfect score in his SAT, but he joined in North Carolina Chapel Hill as a major in biology and environmental sciences, which was a little unusual for an Indian kid to join, at least in those days, because most people of his friends either joined business school or medical school or engineering and computer science. So he was a little bit of unusual kid in that way, biology and animal science. But he knew what he wants to do before he started the program as an undergraduate. Then he ended up joining. In the third year of his undergraduate, he visited India, Indians of Science, in a 2-month summer fellowship. Okay, he loved elephants, and he worked in. Some of you may be familiar with Mudumalai. So he spent 2 months watching what is happening to the Mudumalai elephant corridor. Okay, and he found that the elephant corridor which Indian government built, quote unquote, for elephants to use is only used by humans. Elephants don't go in a straight line. Okay, so he published a small finding: use of 4 elephant corridors by wild and domestic animals in Mudumalai Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay, it's not an earth-shattering global finding, but for an undergraduate research, it was wonderful. It was a new finding. And they suddenly awarded him some of the undergraduate research award for his work. So when he started his PhD at Princeton, he already knew the topic he wants to work on. He went to the person, and he also knew that he wanted to work in India. Even though the college is in Princeton, New Jersey, he found an advisor from Indians of Science as a co-guide, and he spent the remaining 2 years in Buxa Tiger Reserve looking at elephants. Now, and the first paper, one of his papers he published was research options for controlling zoonotic diseases in India. Remember, the COVID virus, which is now spreading, came from bat. So these are not spreading COVID, but other types of viruses which can be spread because some people were eating certain type of deer in India, and nobody was keeping records. Okay, it was politically sensitive, so he quit this thing because, as an American citizen, if you're doing research in an area which nobody in India likes it, he will not even be able to enter India. So he quit. But his passion for animals, his passion for how the lack of ecological diversity is destroying the animal habitat and bringing them into close encounter with human beings, which ends up badly both for humans and animals. Okay, so its focus remained the same. You collaborate in different aspects of the field, and this work, which you worked as a paper with another group, another faculty, in Princeton as a part of his graduate course, where he looked at the literature on how the ivory trade, I understand that United Nations in 2008 made ivory use legal, and that ended up killing more elephants. Okay, so this was a nice scientific study produced, which the American government used when they renegotiated the ivory trade to be illegal in 2017 or something like that. Okay, so and today he's spending his life in actually near Coimbatore as a world wildlife uh, person for managing the elephant as an elephant conservationist. Okay, so now between the two gentlemen you see here, I consider the person on the left as a more successful researcher because he was able to recognize his interests early in life, identifying a meaningful problem, and then set out to gather relevant skills that would help in finding a solution to the problem. Folks, this is very important. For doing a research, you don't need a PhD, okay? You need passion. Once you have done a college or even high school, pretty much, and college, certainly, you have all the skill, the basic foundation on which you can build the research. Going to PhD thinking that it's another coursework you will do with an, just going through some schools and doing the project, you may get your PhD, but you're not a real researcher. And you will have problem going professionally. You look back as a PhD with shame and wasted time. So please keep in mind that PhD is not just another degree, and research does not require a PhD. Only research, when you do it, gives you the scientific tools, especially the resources which you are required to complete your thesis work. Now, again, I grew up most of the time. My first English medium was in ninth class. So I did write much better English than most students write here because they all write for Facebook and Twitter and everything with bad grammar. But still, I can not express myself as well in English, especially the you know behavior or thought processes. I can certainly write a good paper in science because of my training. I can't do it. So I told my kid, both the kids from the beginning, that communication in both mastery of communication with both oral and written is an essential for you if you want to be talk to the policymakers. As a researcher, you will be talking to policymakers. Okay, like the people who want to make policies on COVID, they have to talk to the politicians, right? To say what type of policies are good. You have to talk to funding agencies. Remember, PhD research involves you to get money. You have to pay to your salaries. So many times you have to convince the funding agencies of to give you money. So you have to communicate to them positively with conviction and with ability to make them believe that your project is worth funding. Nowadays, almost every project is multidisciplinary. So you have to have collaborators. Again, you have to convince the collaborators that your project is worth contributing to their expertise, their knowledge, their time. And once you have done all this, this becomes the foundation for a professional growth. If you cannot write clearly, if you cannot speak clearly, you have really your professional growth will be very limited. So basically, it's like a training wheel. So what I offer here in as a faculty member at the University of Finlay, and we have a journal called Global Health Online Journal. Okay. So now, if any of you are thinking of either doing research, not just for PhD, in any area, in the organizations you are currently working on, you are a Pharm D, you are a B Pharm, M Pharm, you want to do research. Okay, as I told you, for the first step in doing research will be to do the research, what is in the literature, what is already known. Remember, finding your basic research or thing research is finding new information. So you need to know what's already known. So you do that and you have a document ready. I would love to look it up and publish it in Global Health Online Journal. Remember, it's not the data which you're collecting in Global Health. You can certainly do that. If you're trying to publish somewhere else, you would like to publish in Global Health Online Journal. We help you with editing. I revise. I've got some of the friends, especially in the health science areas, pharmacy areas, and you can get it published. Now, why would you care about publishing? Because if you have not published it, the data stays in your computer. Nobody knows about you. So this is a simple article which my students who came to India wrote. Pharmacy students visit India, sheds new light on the understanding of opioid epidemic in USA. Remember, opioid epidemic is problem in USA. We have lost thousands and thousands of people because of overprescriptions of drugs like OxyContin, which make them addictive, right? And they published this in 2018. And remember, it has been viewed, literally, this is 40 here. Even last month, some people found this article viable. They have downloaded the abstract. So here, this was published last 2 issues back, Gokul and Karthik. They published it on implementation of IV infusion admixture guidelines by clinical pharmacists to reduce medication administration errors. Remember, again, this was published and this has been viewed. More than 200-300 people, students all across the country and the globe found this useful. They will be able to download it. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, they can apply that in the work environment they're working and get an improved outcome for the patient. Okay, so if you ever tell me that I want to do research and you have never written a manuscript, you have never written anything, then forget it. Okay, your research means you first document. If you want to go for a PhD, you first document that you can write. The lab is taking you to get more grants. So if you cannot communicate properly, if you cannot communicate effectively, and if you have never done it before, then the chances that they will give you a PhD admission is almost zero. So for anyone in the audience today who want to do a PhD, was never published, here is your opportunity for you to work with us and publish your data. If you are a person who has already don't want to do PhD, but can look at a problem in the current area and work on it, do some groundwork. If you have a small review article, a basic foundation, you want to get it started by publishing, the background information of the research can be published in Global Health Online. And certainly you can add additional data depending upon how you pursue the project, whether it gives you some useful information or not. So in conclusion, we are almost exactly time. Research is not reviewing the literature. Reviewing the literature is important to start the research process. Okay, so just because you wrote a review of the literature, that doesn't make you a researcher. Following topic identification, a thorough topic review is a must. Remember, if you don't spend enough time doing, you will be crying. Like many times I used to, why I did not know this before? I would not have done this experiment. Okay, so please review the literature. Types of duration of experiment, the statistics applied, all depends upon the type of research. Okay, there are different tools, but you will figure it out once you identify what your topic is. Once you have done everything, once you have completed research, please don't waste your time. Timely publication of the results is the way you get reviewed by the research community. It benefits the humanity in general, because otherwise some other person is trying to repeat the same results. Yes, repetition of the literature is absolutely a must. But you should know you're repeating, you're producing in a different set of people. Suppose a vaccine worked in America, does the vaccine work in Africa? Does the vaccine work in India? If it doesn't work, then what is the reason it's not working? right? All those are fine. You can always confirm, and sometimes it's nice to have confirmation from different areas, uh, because then only the results become real or globally applicable, and such that others can build upon your findings. Again, I thank you for your attention, and I hope you found some information useful. And we still have 10-15 minutes, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Yeah, session is open for questions now. If you have any question, you can ask.
Again, one thing I just have to tell everybody that I know I have attended few of these sessions, and some of them, uh, Karthik has put together a wonderful series of presentations with people with different expertise. Uh, Listening is the first step. I congratulate you for attending these sessions, not just this one, the all others which he has put together. But at the end of it, you should have something, because after I hang up, somebody may ask me the same question, you know. So please get rid of your, overcome your shyness. You need to be able to communicate. I may or may not have the answer for a question, but I will give it a try, or at least I will direct you to the right person. So it's very important to have a little bit of public speaking experience when you are, when you graduate out of the college. Okay, so every year P1, P2, first to 6 years after high school, take an opportunity to speak to people whom you don't know and share your thoughts and ideas. So please,
Good evening, sir.
yeah,
Sir, I
yes,
have a question, sir. How do we know our
sure.
limitations, sir,
No,
during research?
look, very good. Identify your name first, so I know whom I am talking to here. Is it Rachela? Rachmala
Sir,
Saisri?
I'm Sai sir.
Okay, okay. So,
Sai sir.
okay. So now, yeah, now you tell me the question. What is the question again?
Sir, how do we know our limitations?
Your limitations?
For example, yes, sir. For example, if I'm interested in topics like HIV,
Uh-huh.
like that, I'm frequently told that it is not meant for farmer students, or for example, for family students, it is meant for mainly medical students, like that. How do I know the limitations, sir?
No, I think no. I tell you, those people who are taking, they just don't know what research is. Okay, you just have to ask if any, as a PharmD student, like let's say PharmD and HIV, you can read the literature and see why some population is not responding properly to HIV, and you can ask many questions on if the, you know that, and from the pharmacy perspective, anything which is being dosed repeatedly, it's not effective. You want to make simplify the dosing arrangement. So there are lots of questions you can ask as a pharmacy student for HIV. Okay, so if you want to pursue that, you can. So, but remember, your passion has to be real. Okay, so once you realize that, for whatever reason you decide that I want to work on TB or HIV or anything else, you should know so many papers about HIV, and I tell you, you will have the projects, and we can work on it. I can help you identify projects. Even if I can't, I have got friends who are working in AIDS, specifically pharmacists, and they can help you identify the project. But that's a good thing. But don't see, remember, most people don't know what research is, ma'am. That's the problem. Okay. In every field of work, there is research involved. Every field of work. And not only pharmacy, the social research. Why some people don't take the medication? There is a public health research involved. Why the AIDS drugs are not affordable to other people? So the fact that only medical guy can do AIDS research, I mean, those people just don't know what research is, folks. That's all. So I won't
Thank you,
give it up. And if you are interested, just we can pursue the conversation after in the next week or something. Okay.
thank you, sir.
So, yeah,
Okay.
someone
And there
please
was a
read out
question.
the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Please read out the question on YouTube. There was a question. What was the? There was a read out as a YouTube question. I did not read it.
so someone read out. Actually, I'm also not able to read. I'm seeing notifications.
So we have a question from YouTube from Deepthi
Sure.
Juganti.
Hmm.
Hello, sir. I'm a pharmacy student. Sir, how
Hmm.
many countries are developed about the corona vaccine?
How many companies have developed corona vaccine? I think, to my knowledge, right now there are only 5 or 6 which are. We have got 3 in US. Pfizer is already approved. Moderna is approved. Johnson and Johnson is going to be approved. And besides that, there are 2 in India, and I understand there are a couple in China. So these are the 3 major countries. Britain, collaboration with India, have been working with that. So that was, I would say, half a dozen, and then there are a couple of others which are still in clinical trials.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, sir. Sir, myself Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Sir,
Uh,
the question is that, sir, how to prevent duplication? Sir, like, if there's a particular research field I'm interested in it, how do I know that that same thing is not being done in anywhere else throughout the world?
no. Well, actually, a small duplication is very good. Okay. Like I published a paper on cyclic IP hydrolase. Okay. And it's interesting that it is not annexin 3. Just 6 months later, somebody published a paper from Germany saying that annexin 3 cannot have an enzymatic activity. So it was a beautiful complementary duplication. Okay. So, in the sense that I tell annexin 3, because the previous work has said annexin 3 is cyclic appearance. So, a little bit of duplication because it's not from the same lab. So, 2 people saying the same thing plus minus 6 months with 2 different techniques, so it will never be exact copy. Okay. It will never be exact copy. So either the techniques used are different or the patient population is different, and 2 people saying or 3 people saying the same thing makes you feel happy, simply because people are corroborating your findings. That's many of the thing. Many times, if it's not a reproducible result, it has no value. So I will never worry about that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Good evening.
Yeah. Yes, Harshini.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is Harshini.
Hmm.
Actually, like maybe this is not a question, but I actually wanted to ask a suggestion.
Yeah.
Generally, when I was in first year or second year, I heard a lot of my faculty or my seniors telling that to like continue with PhD, you need few articles being published.
Yeah.
But before that, all I knew articles being published was in a newspaper, and I used to think that okay, maybe we will have to send it to newspapers to get the articles published. And later on, when I actually like when I gradually went to third year, I got to know that okay, there are like journals, and we will have to get it published there. But I never knew like what is the process and how it happens. And later on, when I got to know okay, like there you need to upload and everything, I always had a doubt. Like I actually tried writing a case study paper, uh,
Hmm.
like and that actually did not get published. That got rejected in the last step. But what happens is what I observed was there is a lot of difference in normal writing and writing a research paper, like let it be a
Yes.
review paper or a case study.
Hmm.
Like suppose for someone who is like writing it for the first time,
Hmm.
generally like there will not be any professional who is like sitting right next to them and guide them in how
Hmm.
to maintain that quality of the paper. Like any suggestion like from where we can get those points, like how we can improve our own paper I know we get perfect with practice, but initially, if we have to get a good quality paper, what do you think we need
Okay.
to do? Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, there are people professionally for money who will do it, but I am happy to help anybody. Okay. You send me a paper, I will give you my suggestion, give me feedback, give me enough time, and that's free.
mhm,
Okay, so all this
okay,
now I'm writing paper. It depends upon what type of it is. If you have nobody else collaborating, and if the paper we feel confident enough, if my contribution is enough. Sometime I put my name. I mean, I want you to put the name on it. In that case, actually, your value goes up also because you have collaborated with somebody from the other country. Okay, so
yeah,
I'm happy to help anybody. This is how I do these sessions for. It is not the whole idea is that most people have no clear idea. You write the first paper with and publish it in journal. Nowadays, you have to be very careful. There are a lot of journals which will publish anything you send them.
yeah,
Most of them make money taking you. They will charge you 5,000 rupees, and you have two typos in the title or in your abstract. That paper has zero value, and you send it for a PhD admission, it will backfire. Okay, so I will be happy. That's what I do now. I mean, I am at a point when I have some knowledge. I have written many papers. My English is much better now that I have written 60 papers myself. Okay, so I'll be happy to work on a case study and give it back and suggest you where you publish it. And if it is good enough, if you can't publish somewhere, I will put it on Global Health Online.
yeah, sure, sure. Thank you.
Sir, good evening, sir. Firstly, thank you
Yes,
so much for
yes.
this informative session. Myself, Yashvi, I am from third year of PharmD. And sir,
Mhm.
like in recent months, I was working on a review article on HIV, pediatric
Yeah,
HIV, and it's as a call of attention in Indian healthcare system. But sir,
yeah.
the two things I totally agree with Harish Shini that first thing to maintain is the quality of the paper that we are writing, the language we should have, and that's the
Mhm.
most difficult part I found. And the second was the
Mhm.
source. Like many a times it happens that the source we are taking the information from is
Mhm.
not that considerable. So when you are first, like when you are new to write an article, then how could you like classify that which source is better to get the information from and which is not? And many a
Yeah,
times the
okay.
paper gets rejected because
Sure.
of that.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's, I mean, basically, you like to publish journals where you can find the article and, which has been PubMed approved and those type of things. So you can use one or two, depending upon what the statement is, you can use a newspaper or one of those commercial available sources.